Satanism is becoming more popular. I think one of the reasons is probably the decline of Christianity. They've kept us under a very tight rein for the best part of 2,000 years, and yet all of us deep down want to be sinful and do naughty things. And of course, that's what Satanism is all about. Sex, debauchery, and anything else that you want to do, Satanism allows you to do it.
In many ways, the very concept of Satanism as a religious practice is inherently contradictory. The figure of Satan originates from the Bible, as a text that Satanists fundamentally reject. Yet, they continue to identify with Satan as a symbol. This paradox exposes the true nature of Satanism. Rather than being a standalone belief system, it is defined by its opposition to Christianity. At its core, it embodies an anti-Christian ethos rooted in the Jewish rejection of Christ, replacing biblical morality with subject moral principles that often stem from a deep-seated resentment towards Christian teachings. Yet, despite its seemingly contradictory position, the influence of Satanism today is growing all around the world, undoubtedly due to the presence of the occult embedded deeply into Hollywood, the music industry, and popular culture. From hidden occult references in film to overt displays of satanic imagery in music videos and performances.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
Many have argued that the entertainment industry is deeply intertwined with satanic propaganda. This connection is not merely speculative. Numerous artists, filmmakers, and industry insiders have openly admitted to being influenced by occult practices, while others have been exposed for incorporating satanic themes into their work. Today, in this video, we are going to dive into Satanism, its origins, its influence in popular culture, and many of the various death cults over the years which have arisen out of satanic occultism. But first, I think it's important to explain a couple of things. Within occultism, two primary schools of thought shape its philosophical landscape: the right-hand path and the left-hand path. This division represents one of the most significant ideological splits in esoteric traditions. The right-hand path is characterized by submission to divine law, adherence to moral order, and the pursuit of spiritual transcendence through unity with a higher power. In contrast, the left-hand path is rooted in individualism, self-deification, and the rejection of externally imposed moral or spiritual hierarchies. For example, in the first episode of this series, we explored Freemasonry, a system built around a higher authority, a structured moral code, and a strong sense of duty to its members. These qualities align closely with right-hand path occultism. On the other hand, the left-hand path tends to dismantle the notion of objective morality, often emphasizing self-interest, power, money, the primacy of the individual, that sort of stuff.
When you look at the story of the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, they said the tree of knowledge was the only tree that Adam and Eve were not supposed to eat from in that garden. And on that tree of knowledge, the serpent existed, and the serpent said, if you eat from this tree, you will have knowledge of good and evil, which is exclusive to you if you eat from this one forbidden tree. So this is a metaphor for the knowledge and the understanding, the depth of understanding that someone receives when they start working with the real essence of the left-hand path.
According to Julius Evola, in his book The Yoga of Power, he explains this distinction on page 55. We read the following. Quote, "There is a significant difference between the two tantric paths, that of the right hand and that of the left hand, which are both under Shiva's aegis. In the former, the adept always experiences someone above him, even at the highest level of realization. In the latter, he becomes the ultimate sovereign, world ruler, This means that the duality between the integrated person and the dimension of transcendence, or between the human and God, has been overcome." Unquote. While this distinction provides a general framework, the boundaries between these paths can sometimes blur, as different traditions interpret them in varying different ways. However, broadly speaking, this division helps us understand the fundamental contrast between conventional spiritual systems and the left-hand path of occultism.
In the physical dimension is to some extent rooted and governed by subconscious and unconscious influences. That is why there is so much subtle programming in our today's collective. Literally, the collective is shaped by subconscious and unconscious programming. When you are a left-hand path practitioner, you are learning how to master the arts of subconscious and unconscious programming. So what this means is you are becoming a master in many ways of neuro-linguistic programming or different forms of hypnotism. And ultimately, at its deepest root, you're learning the arts of working with occult sciences that are completely not understood within the mainstream collective, and even by a lot of right-hand path types of individuals. And right-hand path people don't necessarily mean they are active occultists.
Some of the most notable movements within the left-hand path include Satanism, chaos magic, and to some extent Luciferianism, each embracing transgression, autonomy, and the pursuit of hidden knowledge in their own unique ways. There is generally also a very big emphasis on individualism. At the very heart of the left-hand path is the conception of transgression, which is breaking through societal, religious, and psychological limitations to achieve personal power or enlightenment. And that kind of brings us to the topic at hand today, which is Satanism. The ideology of Satanism, like almost everything in the occult, seems to be very dynamic, and its presence in society has manifested itself in various different ways. While there is a lot of overlap between Satanism and Luciferianism, I believe due to the complexities and depth of both of these topics, it's important to separate these topics into their own episode. So in this episode, we will primarily be focusing on Satanism and its emergence in society. As we explore Satanism, a movement that has evolved significantly over time, we can identify two distinct forms: theistic Satanism and atheistic Satanism. Theistic Satanism views Satan as a literal divine being, worthy of worship and devotion. This interpretation often involves a spiritual or esoteric approach, with practitioners sometimes incorporating elements of Luciferianism, the veneration of Baphomet, Baal, or other figures such as Ashtaroth, or pretty much any of the hierarchy of the fallen angels that is mentioned in the Book of Job. Historically, theistic Satanism has been linked to various mystical traditions, including certain interpretations of Kabbalah and occult sects, which seek to spiritually empower through defiance of divine authority. Some branches even echo the ambition to ascend beyond spiritual hierarchy, striving to become like God or even attain godhood themselves. In contrast, atheistic Satanism, which is far more prevalent today, does not recognize Satan as a supernatural entity. Instead, it presents Satan as a symbolic figure representing human nature, freedom, self-empowerment, and the rejection of imposed religious morality. Modern satanic organizations, such as the Church of Satan or the Satanic Temple, emphasize individualism, rationalism, and rebellion against dogma, ultimately relying on Satan as nothing more than a metaphor for human strength and enlightenment, rather than an object of worship.
The Church of Satan wasn't so much a pro-Satan, pro-evil. It was more of an anti-church establishment. Certainly from where it came out of the 50s and 60s, you had very much a Christian American ideal. which for a lot of people was not what they wanted. So it was a very good way of breaking away and saying, I don't want that, I want this. I want the sex, I want the drugs, I want the alcohol, I want the music, and I want to have fun.
Both forms of Satanism have been influenced, if not created, by Jewish mystical and philosophical traditions. Much like how Judaism itself has been divided into both secular and theistic branches. This connection has been explored by various researchers, including Maurice Panay, who, in his book The Plot Against the Church, page 456, asserts the following, quote, "The Jews spread the Lucifer cult at first in various Gnostic sects, and later through secret Luciferian and Satanic sects, and chiefly through the devilish magic which is universally known as black magic. Their doctrines go back to the Jewish Kabbalah, and their chief diffusers were at all times the Jews. The most perverse phenomenon in this magic is the adoration of the devil. It must be made clear that some circles of Jewish Kabbalists, with their secret gatherings, have really honestly worshipped Satan. Without doubt, however, most Jews who spread Satanism have not held this terrible superstition to be true, and have only used it as an effective means to disrupt Christian society and prepare its destruction by their declaring evil to be good, and conversely." Unquote. Maurice Panay's observations provide insight into the underlying motivations of modern Satanism, particularly in its atheistic manifestation. According to Panay, many Jews who spread Satanism did not do so out of genuine worship of Satan as a celestial being, but rather as a tool to undermine and dismantle Christianity. This notion becomes evident when examining the Satanic Temple, the largest satanic organization in the world today. A glance at their About Us section on the official website reveals a clear disdain for theism and an emphasis on social justice activism rather than traditional religious or occult practices. According to the Satanic Temple, quote, "We have publicly confronted hate groups, fought for the abolition of corporal punishment in public schools, applied for equal representation when religious installations are placed on public property, provided religious exemption and legal protections against laws that unscientifically restrict people's reproductive autonomy, exposed harmful pseudoscientific practitioners in mental health care, organised clubs alongside other religious after-school clubs in schools besieged by proselytizing organisations, and engaged in other advocacy in accordance with our tenets." Unquote. Those tenets can also be read on their website. Similarly, the Church of Satan, not to be confused with the Satanic Temple, remains one of the well-most known satanic organisations in the world. Founded by a Jewish man, Howard Stanton LaVey, who later adopted the name Anton LaVey. It takes a fundamentally different approach. LaVeyan Satanism is not a theistic or spiritual movement, but rather an atheistic philosophy that uses Satan as a symbol of human will, self-indulgence, and rebellion against religious dogma.
"I haven't come forth in a great many years, but I can assure you, Satanism is here to stay."
Christianity seems to be its primary target as well. Unlike traditional satanic worship, LaVeyan Satanism rejects the idea of worship altogether, instead using ritual as psychological theatre to cultivate personal empowerment. LaVey's influence extended far beyond occult circles. His notoriety was amplified by his connections to Hollywood and the music industry. His friendships with figures like Roman Polanski, Sammy Davis Jr., Marilyn Manson, Jane Mansfield elevated his status, making him a cultural icon rather than just some esoteric figure. His most famous works, the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals, have had an enduring impact, with many scholars noting their influence far beyond the Church of Satan's official membership. His books were widely available, even in countries where the Church of Satan had no official presence, such as Britain. While LaVey's public persona was built on mystery and spectacle, his ambitions seemed rooted more in self-promotion and financial success than in spiritual or philosophical convictions. And I think it was for this reason that his work blended elements of Nietzschean philosophy, Ayn Rand's objectivism, H.L. Mencken's skepticism, and social Darwinism, repackaged into an ideology that he framed as Satanism. This seemed to be an attempt to broaden the underlying philosophies that was the Church of Satan. His essays often incorporated modified excerpts from Ragnar Redbeard's Might is Right, and adapted John Dee's Enochian Keys, culminating in works such as The Satanic Witch and The Satanic Rituals. Even in death, LaVey remained a figure of speculation and controversy. His official date of death on his birth certificate is listed as October 31st, 1997. Although some sources, including his own daughter, claim he actually died on October 29th. He was also taken to St. Mary's Catholic Hospital, a fact that has fueled many rumours on the internet of a possible deathbed conversion. Though the same daughter insists that this was simply because it just happened to be the closest medical facility in the area. Conflicting accounts also exist regarding his final words. Some claim he expressed regret, allegedly uttering, quote, oh my, what have I done? There is something very wrong. There is something very wrong," unquote. However, his daughter disputes that this was his last words, instead stating that LaVey's intended epitaph was, quote, "I only regret the times that I was too nice," unquote. Regardless of the truth behind his final moments, LaVey's legacy remains controversial. Whether seen as a charlatan, philosopher, provocateur, he succeeded in embedding his version of Satanism into modern cultural discourse, where it continues to evolve and influence new generations today.
The greatest lie he's ever told was convincing people he doesn't exist. And you see people that think that he's like red, he's got a goatee and a pointy tail and stuff like that. He doesn't. He's very beautiful. He's an angel. Why would he look like some monster? He's capable of looking just like you.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
That's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music. Yeah. But it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
Many satanic groups and cults have grown out of this left-behind philosophy. Now, just in regards to Satanism, the question we need to ask is, in terms of its contemporary meaning in modern society, where does it come from? Well, who holds the reins of power in the music industry and Hollywood? Which group has historically shown hostility towards Christianity while also embracing the Kabbalah? And why do these individuals so aggressively promote ideals centered around ego, individualism, lust, gluttony, and indulgence in carnal desires?
I bruised the waiting dagger in hand, spilling the pure virgin blood. Satan's slaughter ceremonial death, answer his every command.
Let's consider the names of some of the most iconic rock and metal bands in history. Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Behemoth, Pantera. These names are not random either. They carry deeply rooted Jewish Talmudic and Satanic references. Take Pantera for an example. Many may not realize that Pantera is the name given in the Talmud to a Roman centurion whom rabbinic texts claim was the true father of Jesus. According to these writings, Mary engaged in prostitution and conceived Jesus through this soldier, directly contradicting the Christian belief in the virgin birth. When you uncover the origins and meanings behind some of these band names, and there are plenty more, the influence at play becomes undeniable. There have also been plenty of people in the music industry that have spoken out over the years, like Michael Jackson and Kanye West, but we all see what happens to them. The topic of Satanism also has a far deeper historical role, which goes deeply into the practice of human sacrifice, blood, and sex. For the sake of time, though, a topic this large is going to require its own dedicated episode in the Occult series, as there is just far too much to discuss on that topic. But it's worth pointing out that these are the themes that are prevalent in Satanism today. There is an extremely big emphasis on blood and sex. There is also a very big emphasis on children as well, in particular, the abuse of children. However, this, again, is a topic that is outside the scope of this video. Also, good luck trying to cover that topic without getting removed from YouTube. I have, however, already made a documentary-length video on the topic of blood magic, adrenochrome, and Hollywood in the past, which was removed from YouTube, funnily enough, although it is hosted on other websites. If that is a video you are interested in watching, check the description below for the link. Today, satanic influence is no longer confined to the niche genre of heavy metal. It has permeated all of popular culture. It can be seen in pop music, at the Olympics, in children's shows, and even within the churches that have abandoned the biblical teachings in favour of a Marxist, humanist, or woke agenda that is steeped in satanic symbolism. There have also been various political groups and organisations that have embraced aspects of left-hand path occultism. Take Alexander Dugin for an example, a Russian political philosopher, strategist, and a key figure in geopolitics and nationalist thought, born in 1962. Dugin is best known for advocating Eurasianism, an ideology that seeks to establish a multipolar world order led by Russia and other non-Western civilizations in opposition to what he calls Western liberal dominance. If one examines his writings and lectures, it becomes clear that he places Israel at the centre of his very ambitious Eurasian axis. Dugin's ideological and spiritual influences are deeply rooted in the occult. A former advisor to Vladimir Putin and a former Bolshevik, he has openly admitted to practicing Thelema, the satanic religion associated with the Ordo Templi Orientis. He and his inner circle are also strong proponents of chaos magic, a left-hand path occult tradition. In 1992, Dugin was closely associated with Christian Bouquet, the head of the French branch of the OTO, and the two attended gatherings together, further highlighting his direct ties to esoteric and occult movements within the left-hand path. Alexander Dugin, Jewish philosopher Paul Gottfried, and Jewish businessman Roy Cohn, who was Trump's mentor, are very much the architects of the alt-right movement sweeping the world. In addition to this, the new form of radical left politics is also based very much on humanist Marxist philosophy, which of course is born out of Jewish concepts like tikkun olam, which means healing the world or cleansing the world. Although subtle, Satanism has spread its influence deep into all aspects of culture, politics, and entertainment. This also seems to be coinciding with the rapid decline of the Church and its influence. All throughout the Holy Bible, both Old and New Testament, there is continuous mention of Jews falling away from God, worshipping demons, and engaging in satanic rituals, necromancy, and the consumption of blood. It seemed to be an ongoing issue which caused a lot of problems historically, even prior to the time of Jesus, and well after the time of Jesus into the medieval era. For a biblical example, In the book of Leviticus, we have a commandment from God being given to the Hebrews, demanding that they no longer engage in the practice of child sacrifice, especially in the name of false gods and demons. Leviticus 18:21 reads, quote, "And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire of Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God, I am the Lord." Unquote. This is emphasized again in later chapters of the same book. Leviticus 20 verses 2 through to 5 says the following, quote, "Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man, and I will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do anyways hide their eyes from the man, when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man, and against his family, and I will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him, to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people." Unquote. This emphasis correlates with some of the teachings embraced by pagans of foreign nations around Israel. Some of these traditions seem to have influenced the Israelites at various points in their history. However, despite these teachings being outlawed, a subsection of the Israelites seem to have maintained these dark practices. In the book of Jeremiah, we read the following in chapters 32, verse 35. "And they built high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire unto Molech, which I commanded them not. Neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination, to cause Judah to sin." Unquote. Again, in the book of Judges, we read the following in Judges chapter 2, verses 11 through to 13. "And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Balaam, and they forsook the Lord God and their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods, of the gods of their people that were round about them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked the Lord to anger. They forsook the Lord, and served Baal and Ashtaroth." Unquote. Even well into the New Testament, around the time of Jesus and shortly thereafter, we have mention of Jews engaging in seemingly satanic practice. In the book of Revelations, chapter 2, verse 9, we read the following, "I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan." Unquote. Demon worship and witchcraft are deeply intertwined with the theistic practice of Satanism, largely driven by the left-hand elements of the Jewish Kabbalah. These practices remain prevalent even today. When delving into the more controversial aspects of theistic Satanism, it is difficult to avoid stumbling upon information that leads into some of the most contentious conspiracy theories circulating the internet, such as Pizzagate, Hollywood elitism, and the historically documented instances of ritualistic murder. While mainstream sources like Snopes may dismiss these claims, there is a very well documented history surrounding them, and they cannot be easily ignored. To even suggest that such practices have occurred or continued to occur is often met with accusations of anti-Semitism. Yet, even within Jewish sources, there are so many references to Jewish involvement in Satanism. Maurice Panay, in his book The Plot Against the Church, again notes the following on page 456. Quote, "Adolf Jacob Frank, a Jewish leader of the past 19th century, writes in his interesting work about the Kabbalah, in connection with Jewish demonolatry, the worship of demons. If in Judaism traces of dark superstition are present, then one must above all seek the cause of terror which it inspires through its devil worship. The confession that there has existed a devil worship in Judaism is therefore so valuable because it comes from an important leader of the synagogue, who was no less than vice president of the Israelite Church Council in Paris, the highest Jewish authority in France, collaborator in the Israelite archives, and assistant director of the Imperial Library at the time of Napoleon III, unquote. The topic of Satanism is a very large topic, given how dynamic it is. I have intentionally spoken very little about Gnosticism, Luciferianism, and ritual murder, because I believe that these topics deserve their own episode in the future. So stay in tune for that and subscribe to the channel. There are a lot of other elements I wanted to discuss as well, like the Hellfire Club and the Satanic Panic of the 80s. But these are topics that have already been pretty well documented on the internet. There are plenty of videos about that on YouTube. I felt like there was a lot of missing information on the topic of Satanism, and that is really what I wanted to mostly focus on in this video. I really want to thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts on this topic, please put your comments below. Also, consider joining our research group on Telegram. Link in the description below. Also, be sure to like this video and share it around on social media. All of that really helps. Until the next episode, thanks guys.